Hyrox is an amazing competition format, mixing up 1 kilometre runs with rowing, ski erg, sled pushes, farmers carries and more. But the rule for rowing and skiing in Hyrox has a flaw that could make you find it a lot harder and as a result go a lot slower. Why? Because you're probably not training hard enough. It all comes down to Rule 5.5. The damper setting on the ergometer is preset for the following resistance. Women 5, Women Pro and Men 6, Men Pro 7. Now, I'll sidestep my usual rant about the fact it's not about resistance, because the huge flaw here is that this rule assumes every Concept 2 machine is the same. The truth is, though, that the weight of the stroke, or how tough each stroke feels on one machine set to 7, may be entirely different to another machine set to 7. Now, before I get too deep into this, I know that Rule 5.5 does go on to say that the competitor can set the machine to their own preference rather than using these presets. But in all the Hyrox rowing I've seen, I haven't spotted one person move the lever from the preset. Which does make sense, it's a timed event after all, so adjusting the machine to your comfort just wastes that time. However, if you adjust the machine when you start your 1k row or 1k ski, please do let me know in the comments. I don't want to fall into that assume hole. Anyway, back to the lever setting problem. The issue isn't the machines on the race floor. They're likely to be either brand new or from a hire company who maintains them well, so they will all feel similar on the same preset lever setting. And that's the key, the feel. The problem is the machine that you train on, which could feel a lot lighter even when the lever is set to the same preset point. And this means that there's a very good chance that when you sit down on the machine on a competition floor, it'll feel a lot heavier to row on than you're used to in your training. Now the issue is airflow, and the culprit is dirt. The lever on the side of the machine isn't a vulgar resistance like you'd find on a spin bike. It controls airflow that the fan inside fights against. A higher number on the lever means more air gets in, which makes each stroke feel heavier. Lower the lever and less air gets in, making the stroke feel lighter. But dirt can clog up the air intake that the lever controls, and worse, the mesh surrounding the fan cage can fill up with dirt and dust, adding to the problem. On the race floor, assuming they are all well-maintained machines, setting the lever to a preset like 7 isn't too much of an issue, as they'll all let in a similar amount of air. However, if the Concept 2 in your gym hasn't been cleaned in a while, it may let in a lot less air at the same lever setting because of the accumulation of dirt and dust. Less air in means less air to fight against, and the stroke will feel a lot lighter on a dirty machine compared to a clean machine, even when both are set to the same lever setting. So, what do? It's simple. You just need to set up the machine that you train on to feel like the one that you'll race on. And you do this by using something called drag factor. Now, the gubbins inside the monitor on the Concept 2 knows how much air the fan is fighting against and gives it a number known as drag factor. And this drag factor has two purposes. The first is what we're interested in. By setting the drag factor on your training machine to a similar value that you'll find on the machine on the race floor, you'll make them both feel the same and you'll be training properly. But the monitor also uses this drag factor to calculate how fast you're rowing, combining it with the amount of power you're putting in to give you your pace. And this is why it's still a fair race with one machine set to lever 10 and another on lever 1. It's like two people running up the same flight of stairs side by side. One takes 3 steps at a time. That's the high drag factor. The other only takes 1 step at a time. Low lever setting, low drag factor. They both climb the same stairs. It's just how they do it that's different. One takes long, powerful steps to climb. The other takes lots of smaller steps to climb. On the rowing machine, a higher drag factor means you're fighting against the weight of the flywheel and likely using more muscle power in each stroke. But on that lower drag factor with that lighter stroke weight, it tends to be more about cardio with higher stroke rates keeping the flywheel turning. And if you've been training to climb stairs one step at a time, but then you're told in a race that you have to climb 3 at a time, the difference in feel will be large because you won't be prepared for it. So if you're training on a Concept 2 that doesn't let in as much air as it should, when you sit on that machine on the race floor, which lets in a lot more air, the difference in feel will be huge. Now here's where I assume you're asking just how big a difference there can be between your training machine and the race machine. Take a look at these images. I asked viewers on this channel to send me the drag factor reading on their machines when they're set to 7. A lot of them are what I'd expect, around 160 to 170, and it's likely that this is what the machine on the race floor would be at lever 7. But some of them are obviously in real need of a clean, with readings as low as 130 and even 126. Now the average was around 145, which isn't too far off the 160 to 170 you'll find on the race floor, but it's still going to be noticeable as a difference if you're not used to it. So how do you know whether you have an airflow issue, and how do you fix it? On any Concept 2 that you train on, do this. Go to Menu, More Options, Display Drag Factor, and then row a few strokes. The monitor will tell you what your machine's drag factor is. And then you can change the drag factor by moving the lever and adjusting the airflow. If you're a woman with a preset lever setting of 5, then set your drag factor to round about 130, 135. If you're a pro woman or a man with a preset lever setting of 6, then set your drag factor to round about 145. And if you're a pro man with a preset lever setting of 7, then set the drag factor on your training machine to round about 165. These numbers won't be identical to the machine that you'll find on the race floor, but it will be close enough that you're not going to notice a huge difference between the machine that you train on and the one that you're going to race on. And before I get letters, I know that these drag factor numbers are way higher than most rowers would use, but I'm talking about matching the race floor for Hyrox rowing, not everyday rowing. So, the one step you need to do in order to make your Hyrox row feel easier is to set up your training machine to feel like the race machine. You'll develop a technique in training that uses the same amount of cardio and muscle power that you'll need on the race floor, preventing early burnout during the row. And as you're used to how heavy the weight of the stroke will feel, you won't be surprised by it feeling heavy, which can lead you to believe you're more fatigued than you actually are. You don't want to start the row and instantly think, why is this so tough? Am I really this tired? Things are going well. I should slow down. Use drag factor instead of the lever to make sure you're training how you'll race. I promise you it'll help. Oh, the difference in airflow caused by dirt is also why saying, I train on 5, or worse, I train on 10, means nothing. Depending on how dirty the machine is, the lever at 10 on your machine may actually feel a lot easier than my machine set to 1. Use drag factor, and then you can say, I set my drag factor to 140, which is around lever 5 on my machine. Admittedly, that's not quite as punchy on an Instagram post. As to the row itself, if you want to know how to improve your technique to row faster, check out this video. And if you want to improve your overall fitness and power on the rowing machine with a training plan, check out the workouts and plans I have here on this channel, all entirely free. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Make sure to leave me comments below and let me know if it helped. Be well, bye bye.